welcome to a show where you will hear about how our liberty is being eroded by the very people that swear an oath to protect it.
Today, the president signed a big new anti-terrorism bill that would expand the government's ability to track down terrorists, but at some cost.
On this show, we will discuss many of the lies that the government that hates us, by the way, we will discuss the lies that the people in positions of power and influence spread every day.
And what is the best way to confuse children? Confuse them about their sexuality, confuse them about their gender, expose them to things that their little brains are not ready for yet. That is how they are confusing children. It is leading to chaos, and Big Daddy government, of course, can be there to pick us all up and take care of us at the end of it.
We will also talk about how current elected leadership at all levels of government has been corrupted by power and control, as well as discuss the types of leadership needed to correct our republic's course.
We the people. It was time to remember that we the people are the government.
Providing assistance for the Ukrainians to defeat the Russians, that's the number one priority for the United States right now.
I am your host, Larry Linton, retired U.S. Navy Command Master Chief and prior Tennessee House of Representatives District 12 candidate, and welcome to the Liberty, Leadership, and Lies podcast. Welcome to this week's show, ladies and gentlemen. Still in the Goat Locker studio, joined by my loyal puppy Harlow. In today's episode, we're going to pick right back up with the second part of the interview with Steve Hickey and what happened in Williamson County during their Republican Party reorganization last month. With that, let's get on with the second half of the interview, and I'll come back on the other side to close out the show.
So, I do believe that the Republican Party needs to come together. I do believe we need to have unity, but, what we did to try to get everybody on board with this is we said, all right, this is what we believe. We want a party where we can discuss things and discussion within the walls of our party is not a bad thing. We don't need to have strict ideological purity until we go outside and now we're competing against the Democrats. So we need to be in a position. We need to agree to follow the rules, which I don't think I know our county party was not following their bylaws, and I'm questioning the state. I think around the state we need to look at what bylaws are followed and what are kind of we just haven't done it that way, so we're just going to ignore that.
That's the root of the problem with the state GOP is the state's leadership. Scott Golden and the whole state executive committee, if they selectively enforce bylaws.
Yeah.
I mean, they were hard on me for the bylaws, but look at what they did there. They reduced it to 2 out of the last 3 primaries to be a bona fide voter. And they strictly said I couldn't be because I didn't vote in the last 4 consecutive primaries for the role of chairman. And then Scott Golden in his email to me said, well, you ran as an independent, and that was a mistake.
Yep.
Not real. I mean, well, of course he does realize this, but I mean, sure it's for everybody else that they want me to think that it was a mistake, but it was their rules that forced me into that position because of their extra constitutional residency requirements, the 3 out of 4 primaries. That's an extra constitutional residency requirement in my mind.
Right.
And then the fees, I talked to several people that ran in the last election as a GOP. You can't claim that as a fee when you're documenting your campaign expenditures. The $500 to run as a state representative is considered a campaign donation under state laws. So, I mean, it's corrupt to the core, and I think it's incumbency protection.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. And we did our annual trip up closing our primaries path, and of course got shot down again. And there's a reason for that. It's when you have open primaries like we do, and when the Republican Party doesn't take action on people who crossover vote. You're just guaranteeing that you're going to have Democrats voting in your primaries, and we saw that play out here in Williamson County last year in the District 7 county commission race, the challenger that we were supporting, he lost by 11 votes, but we have demonstrable proof there were 89 Democrats crossing over into that primary. So,
I think the same thing happened to Gary in his primary.
Yeah. Yep. So, I mean, crossover voting, we know helps the more moderate candidate to get through the primary, and yet we don't have the stomach as a party and as an elected legislature to do anything about it. And it's because we have people that benefit from it. So again, what is the rule? What are we trying to achieve here? Are we trying to be a Republican party? Are we trying to be some squishy middle of the road Mitt Romney party?
Right, because the middle is always moving to the left. It's never moving to the right.
Well, and we could get into a long discussion about the Overton window.
Yes.
If you've ever heard of that.
Yes, indeed.
And the left has done a very, very good job of moving that window steadily to the left over the last 20, I'd argue, the last 50 years. And
I'd argue since the 16th Amendment was passed.
Well, no, I would. So, what you have is a people will keep saying, well, the Republicans just need to moderate their views. They just need to come to the middle. Well, the middle, like you say, keeps racing to the left. And the only way to halt that lurch to the left is to drive a stake in the ground and say, no, this is what we believe. And that's what we try to do with our campaign. Establish, we're going to be conservatives. We're going to have an open forum where ideas can be shared. We're not going to weaponize the party against any one group, any one segment of our people who want to be part of the Republican Party in Williamson County. And because we did that, we were able to get everybody on board, all the various grassroots groups. So we did that, and we knew we expected that there would be some gamesmanship by the incumbent and the rest of the establishment here in Williamson County. But I don't know if I was fully prepared for the level that we did receive. So the first indication that things were going to go off the rails pretty hard was when and we didn't. This was never publicly announced. They brought Ted Boyette in to be the convention chair. Now,
straight up commie. Ted Boyette is a straight up communist.
Well, I don't know where his political ideology is. What I do know is that he has a very, very firm reputation as being somebody who kneecaps conservatives every opportunity he gets. He apparently ran the Blount County Contest and Credentials Committee and worked to exclude as many conservatives as he could to try to swing that convention one direction. I know he was instrumental in the Blount County. They had some big blow up with the women's groups last year when they wanted to bring Gary Humble in to speak.
Yeah, Heather Fair, I met with her, hoping to get her as a guest. And then Susan Ball with the East Tennessee Conservatives. Yep. Most of those people from the Blount County Republican Women have now moved over to another group because of that.
Yep.
So yeah, I don't, like I said, you said, I don't know his political leanings, but he operates as a straight Stalin communist. Yeah.
Yep. That I would agree with. He's apparently working for Cameron Sexton up on the Hill. So that kind of begs the question. Where does Cameron Sexton sit with all this? If he's keeping this guy employed, and this guy's got a track record of kind of kneecapping conservatives around the state. Well, so they brought Boyette in to be the convention chair. Never announced. And oh, by the way, they broke several bylaws along the way by not holding the required meeting in January that they were supposed to have in order to set the convention date and assign a contest and credentials committee. We never did know who was on the old contest and credentials committee until they resigned, and I'll get to that here in a little bit. But anyway, so Boyette came in, and we had several people, including a county commissioner, that started asking questions about, okay, what's going on with the convention? When is it officially? Where is it? And what are the rules? What are going to be the rules surrounding this thing? And the flow of information was next to zero out of the county party about the convention. So we went ahead and began our outreach campaign at the beginning of March. The convention was supposed to be on March 30th, and we created a video with branding. We branded our slate of candidates, the Vision 2023, Williamson County Republican Party Vision 2023, and to give people an idea that, hey, this is a forward-looking effort. We're gonna just accept. We can't change what has happened in the past, but we are going to commit to a better future for the Williamson County Republican Party. And we're fairly certain that we probably had somewhere in the neighborhood of 300 or so people pre-register for the convention before the county officially announced the date, time, and location of the convention. So that's an important key that we knew. We've got pretty good idea that we had about 300 people sign up. Now, around the state, I think every Republican county convention, they've had a pre-registration link that people could go and say, hey, I want to participate. And the hook is that if you do that, it's gonna speed your entry into the convention. What I don't think anybody really fully appreciates is that registration that goes into a database, and they're able to tell. They've got a list of all the people that are pre-registered. So if somebody, and I'm fairly certain this happened, if somebody with access to that list, they can look through it and they can go, okay, I know this is one of our people, this is one of our people, this is one of our people, and then everybody else they know is either undecided or potentially hostile. So that gives them an idea, first of all, of what the numbers are, whether they're winning or losing. And then second of all, it gives them the opportunity to go, okay, we need to knock out these people, or we're going to see what we can dig up on these people to try to, prohibit them from participating. So that whole concept of the pre-registration list is really kind of dangerous in my mind, because it gives anybody who has access to that list an unfair advantage. So, and we saw that play out here with the way the convention got moved. So, 4 days after they announced the date and time and location of the convention publicly, with all this litany of this is what you need to do in order to register, this is what you need to do they decided to move the date and location of the convention. And again, it was because they knew they didn't have the numbers. We had managed to probably pre-register at least 300, probably 400 or so people. And they knew they had a personnel problem. They knew they had a numbers problem. So, they announced, we got to move the convention date, even though we had already done the research and we knew that the Williamson County Agricultural Center was available that evening. Seats 5,000 people, would have no problem hosting that event. They blew that off, and they just said, nope, we're gonna do it 3 weeks later at a place real close to their Democrat base of support, downtown Franklin. Mm-hmm. And by the way, at the factory, the roads are all torn up around the factory. The parking lot's all torn up, and it's not really the best venue, I guess, for this kind of a convention. So they did that, and then you saw the restrictions on who could participate. You saw those really start to open up. Right. They said, okay, if you're 2 of 4, you can participate with a vouch, and so we were fairly certain what they were doing is they were going to find anybody in the county who was 2 of 4 and try to strong arm them into showing up. And that wound up leading to a big issue with the SEC, because if you read the bylaws, the SEC ultimately has the final say on who does and doesn't get into a convention. Between the two SEC reps from your county or your district and the state chairman, Scott Golden, the majority, 2 out of 3 of them have to agree to let somebody in. So the SEC started to push back and say, well, now wait a second. We're going to be a little bit of quality control on this. We're not just going to let anybody who's 2 of 3 in. It's going to have to be somebody who has a demonstrated participation in the party. Somebody we've seen, not just somebody who decides that they all of a sudden want to get involved. So what that wound up doing, that contest and credentials committee that I had mentioned earlier. So they apparently, and again, we had requested who are the people on this contest and credentials committee? What's their role? What are the rules? We were screaming for the better part of all of March. What are the rules for this convention so that we can know what we're operating under? Well, this contest and credentials committee had apparently, either by Ted Boyette, by the previous chair, or on their own volition, they took upon themselves the role of, we are the final arbiter of who gets into the convention, who doesn't. And then the SEC reps, they said, actually, no, here it is in the bylaws, guys. You don't have that. You don't have that right. So when they did that, they realized, oh shoot, the game is up. We can't. Not only can we not vouch people into this convention, en masse. We also can't. We're also not going to be able to knock people out of the convention either, which I think was their goal. They were going to try to exclude. I heard a couple hundred people from the convention.
Wow.
So they all wound up resigning, and this was really kind of disgusting. They used the county party email and they blasted it out to everybody who's a member of the Williamson County Republican Party, and to everybody who was a registrant who had registered to participate in the convention. They blasted out this very salacious and totally accusatory without any basis, that this was not going to be a fair convention, that they recommended canceling the convention altogether, and just accusing various people of wrongdoing, when the reality was they were the ones that were committing the wrongdoing. So
they wanted to take their ball and go home, huh?
Yes, exactly. But that wasn't all. So remember how I said that if you have access to that registration list, bad thing, it can be used for bad things. Yeah. Somebody apparently grabbed hold of it and started sending out emails to members of the party and people who had we're fairly certain, because there were some people who had pre-registered who were not paid, who were not members of the Williamson County Republican Party. So they weren't receiving regular emails from them, but they received these emails from this mysterious third party. There were about 2, maybe 3 emails that went out that were trashing the chair candidate that we were supporting. So you had blatant election interference going on. Somebody got access to an email list they shouldn't have access to, and they abused it, and there was never any pushback from the party or from the state, which was kind of disgusting. But it was just yet again another attempt to try to win this election by cheating. So
wow.
Ultimately, the state party wound up stepping in, and really the county party just kind of walked away from the whole convention process altogether. The state party came in. There were a few people from the county party that stayed in. They signed a new contest and credentials committee, and then they went out looking for volunteers. So there were numerous grassroots volunteers that stepped up to the plate and agreed to show up. And I do have to give the state credit. They pulled together a pretty good convention, given everything that had transpired. there wound up being no floor contests. Nobody stood up and made a motion that we exclude 200 people, which we thought was going to happen. I think they were planning on doing it. I think the state probably said no. We're not going down that path.
Well, you think the state did that because of what was going on there was starting to receive national attention.
I think at the end of the day, the state saw. The level of corruption, the level of it was a cartoon version of what a convention or what a county party should be. We were.
Wow, they haven't seen Sevier County yet. Then.
Well, the state, I think, just kind of got fed up with it all, and they just said, "All right, we're gonna make this thing happen." They did, and I mean, it wasn't like it was a close election at all. I mean, the chair vote wound up being, I think, 415 to 197.
Wow.
So, and the down ballot, after the chair election. We think about 100 of their supporters were just up and left. So the down ballot races were even worse. It was, I think, 390 to 97 thereabouts. So it wound up, the convention itself wound up almost being anticlimactic with everything that had transpired before it. So, I get it. People don't like to lose, and I respect that. But at the end of the day, if we're not following rules, if we're not willing to live by the rules and play the game as a well, if I don't win this time, I'm just going to have to work harder and come back next time and do my best. If we're not willing to do that, then we are on the way to communism. We're on our way to a very dark place. So if there's anybody out there who's listening to this who is I don't even know what to call people that we were competing against, establishment, centrists, Ryan, whatever, If there's anybody listen to this, let's play this game fairly. Let's play by the rules, and at the end of the day, let the best person win. And really, at the end of the day, what you want is a Republican Party that can battle it out within the walls of our party and put forward the best, the brightest, the strongest. Because we're fighting an uphill battle right now against a neo-Marxist,
undying enemy that is just bent on this destruction of this constitutional republic.
If you're just trying to stay in power, if you're trying to use power to stay in power, that's going to ultimately make you weak, and you don't want a weak party. You want a strong party to fight against what we're fighting against. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, it's good. I mean, that's a great blueprint. I think I've taken some lessons learned from that we're gonna go forward with in 2025 here in Sevier County. But I mean, it's a different situation in Sevier County. I think everybody that is part of that hierarchy there in the county party, they're just there so they can have the name. Hey, I'm the vice chair, or I'm the member at large, or whatever. But they're not doing the party any good.
Yeah.
I mean, I invite you to go to the Sevier County Republican webpage and look at the news and events. The only thing that's on there is the 2022 Lincoln Day dinner.
Yeah. Well, and the same thing with ours. Up until they realized that they had a problem, they still had 2022 election stuff on the banner. On the front end, and then when they realized they had a problem, they started marketing themselves and trying to appeal to grassroots. So
they still haven't changed Sevier counties yet as of now, and they still list a senator that's no longer the senator that represents our state senator that no longer represents us after the reorg last year.
Yeah,
he's still there. I mean, and the party that we just held the reorganization. All the old members were still there. An interesting point about the at-large position. I don't know if I've addressed this before or not, but they were so interested in myself and a couple other grassroots conservatives that were there not getting there at all.
Yeah.
That when it came up to the at-large position members voting, somebody nominated everybody that previously served, re-nominate for the same positions. That was seconded. They all voted, and then they closed nominations right away, not realizing that 3 people that were at large are now actual officers. So just in a hurry to make sure that like I said, myself and a couple of other people couldn't get on there at all, they gave up, in essence, 3 at-large positions, because the at-large positions is it's a, I don't know how you call it. It's a lower role than the actual officer positions. So they actually shrank the size of the county executive committee just to ensure that a conservative wouldn't get on the board, just so they could ensure that the good old boys are still the same good old boys. I mean, the reorgs was just a shuffling of members around, except for the new chairman, who they threw in at the last second because I was the only one that put my name in the hat. And they pulled an elected official already, the county sheriff. They put him as the chairman. Now, granted, I have no problem with the county sheriff. He's a good dude. He seems to be a constitutional sheriff, and he's well loved in this community. He ran unopposed and still got thousands and thousands of votes. But does it do the party any good if we continue to elect good old boys, or we continue to elect people or keep the same people in power that are doing nothing for Republican Party principles and constitutional principles?
Bingo. And again, I'm all for unity, but let's unify around a message, not a candidate, not a an incumbent politician. That's not unity. Unity is unifying around a message.
Right. Absolutely. So what are your plans going forward, Steve?
Well, we're going to gear up for elections this fall and next year. And again, trying to find good, solid conservatives that understand what their role as elected officials is in a constitutional republic, and try to get them across the finish line.
Same thing going on here. I'm still debating my future in politics. I like what I do, but I definitely like to make sure that the country I hand down to my grandkids whenever they come along is the same one I was born and raised in. It's definitely not the same as it was even just 20 years ago. It's terrible.
I'd say 10 years ago. It's changed. It's changed dramatically. And the good news is I see people beginning to take a more active role in their governance, and that's a good thing. You should want regardless of left, right, you should want an active and engaged citizenry to be giving you direction, tell you this is what we want, because ultimately that's the role of an elected official is to represent the people who put them in office, and try to make this country a better country. Take us where our founding fathers envisioned us going.
Absolutely, and I say a lot of people are focused on, like conservatives, good conservatives are, we have our individual pet peeves, and one of those out there is election integrity. And I'm all for, going to paper ballots and something more accountable. But the biggest enabler of fraud and let's just say anything fraudulent in our elections, the biggest enabler of that is the apathy of the voter. I mean, look at the participation rate in off-year elections is just terrible. Sevier County had the lowest in the whole state for last year's midterms. But then around 50% of participation in presidential year elections, that's what enables any kind of fraud. So via ballot box stuffing or electronic this or whatever, no amount of fraud that is out there, that is dreamed of, can ever overcome a greater than 80% participation by the electorate.
Yep.
You just can't make up those numbers in either electronic form or stuff in the ballots. So if people are really wanting to see the country be restored, show up at the ballot box no matter what. I don't care if you vote in Donald Duck, but if you're there voting, that eliminates that 1% of fraud that could be taking place because you stayed home.
Yep. Now, if you're somebody with a Gaston flag, license plate, don't tread on me. If you're somebody with an NRA sticker on your car, if you're somebody who is concerned about the education your children are receiving. If you're not getting involved in politics, at least going to the ballot box and voting, and it's more than just voting. It's also being understanding, who you're voting for, what they stand for, what they have articulated, and then holding them to account after the fact. If you don't have time to do anything else, get to know who you're voting for, get to know what they stand for, and then vote for them and hold them accountable to that after the fact.
Absolutely. Party line voting apathy is... I talked to several people after the election here, and they just assumed because I ran as an independent, I was a Democrat.
Oh, yeah.
And so they voted for the R in overwhelming percentage. It wasn't a lot of people that voted, not realizing that, hey, yes, I'm the true constitutional conservative in the race, but hey, he's got the R after his name, so he's safe.
Yes.
That and non-participation is the surest way. I mean, it's proven. The data shows it is the degradation, or I say our country's in retrograde because of the lack of participation in our system of self-governance.
Yep. But our founders, they gave us the ability to correct this, and it's up to us. It's up to us to take that step and correct this at the ballot box. So
absolutely, Steve. Well, hey, it's been a pleasure having you on. I hope to have you on again in the future, and keep us up to date with what's going on there. And I'll try to do the same thing here in Sevier County. Again, I want to thank you for your service. Even though you were in the Air Force. My dad was in the Air Force, but he wasn't a pilot. He was one of them intel officers. But I got the pleasure of being born in Japan and raised all over the planet, and then joined the Navy myself and saw everything. But so I know how hard it is being a veteran and seeing what is happening to not only our country but our constitutional republic.
Yeah.
And I just wish more people were out there, more veterans out there were like you, deciding to take a stand in the arena and fight to restore our Constitution.
Well, thank you very much, Larry. Very kind words, and it's been my pleasure to be on with you. And thank you for your service as well. And thank you for your efforts in trying to restore our constitutional republic.
All right, thanks, Steve. Good talking to you.
All right, take care.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Well, that's it for the interview, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed it. Once again, it is my desire that these two episodes, today's and last week's, it is my desire that they will inspire other conservatives around Tennessee, or in the state you live in if it isn't Tennessee, to look to the actions that took place in Williamson County and do the same things where you live. With that being said, ladies and gentlemen, that is all for this week's show. Again, I really hope you enjoy the entire interview. In closing, we have this week's wisdom from God's Word, and today it comes to us from Philippians 2:4. Let each of you look out not only for his own interests, but also for the interests of others. Exactly how are we to look out for the interests of others? In addition to sharing the truth about our faith, which will actually play the biggest role in writing the course of our republic, but we must also encourage everybody in our spheres of influence to become more involved in our system of self-governance. But our political parties and the ruling elite, they do not look out for the interests of others, only their own interests. They are leading our individual states and our constitutional republic to destruction. Thank you all for listening this week, and I pray that you enjoy the rest of your weekend. Until next week, stand in the arena with me. Reveille, it's time to wake up.